Today we're diving into a really tough question, one where the cold letter of the law smacks right into human tragedy.
So, picture this scenario. It's just a heart-wrenching situation with no easy answers. What do? Do we push for punishment, for what we call justice, or do we think about what a grieving family might actually need right now? Maybe immediate financial help is better for them than a long, agonizing trial that might not even go their way.
You'd think the law would have a straightforward answer, right? And it does, kinda. On paper, the answer is a firm no. But in the real world, it's a whole lot messier. So let's get into how and why our courts sometimes navigate this gray area, allowing settlements to actually end criminal cases.
All right, our journey into this legal maze starts with one specific part of the Indian Penal Code, or IPC. It's a section that deals with causing death by negligence, and trust me, this is where all the legal and ethical drama really begins.
Okay, the key phrase you really need to zero in on here is not amounting to culpable homicide. This is absolutely critical. We're not talking about murder here, not an intentional act. Section 304A is for those tragic situations where someone dies because of another person's carelessness or recklessness, like in a lot of traffic accidents or maybe a workplace mishap.
So, let's get right to the heart of the legal problem. The law draws this really bright line between two types of crimes. On one side, you have crimes that can be settled privately, and on the other, crimes that are seen as an offense against all of us, against society itself.
And here's that bright line. On the left, you've got compoundable offenses. The law basically sees these as private disputes. A great example is defamation. The two people involved can reach an agreement and the court just closes the case. But on the right, you have non-compoundable offenses. These are considered crimes against society, and guess what falls into this category? Section 304A, right alongside things like murder and rape. Legally, you just can't settle them.
And this quote, it perfectly sums up the official stance from the courts. The big fear is that if you start allowing these settlements, you create a really dangerous situation where it looks like justice is for sale. The thinking is, since the victim can't agree to a compromise, the state has to step in for the good of society.
So, if the law is so black and white about this, how in the world are these cases ever getting settled? Well, the answer lies in this incredibly powerful, almost secret weapon-like tool that the high courts have.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If an offense is non-compoundable, if you literally cannot settle it, how are these cases being dismissed because of a private deal? The answer is, it's not about settling the offense at all. It's about a completely separate, extraordinary power that only high courts can use.
And this is it. Section 482 of the Criminal Procedure Code. You can think of it like a legal safety valve. It gives high courts this special discretion to step in when they need to secure the ends of justice or stop the legal process from being misused. So it's not about compounding the crime. It's about the court itself deciding that pushing forward with the prosecution would actually be a bigger injustice.
Now, as you can imagine, courts don't just use this power lightly. It's a huge deal. They have to perform this really careful balancing act. And the whole thing often comes down to one single critical concept. Just how negligent was the person?
Because here's the thing, and this is so important to understand. In criminal law, not all negligence is the same. When a high court is even thinking about quashing a 304A case because of a settlement, the very first thing they have to do is dig into the nature of that negligence. This spells out a massive distinction. See, in a civil case, maybe just being a bit careless is enough to be liable. But for a criminal conviction under 304A, the bar is way, way higher. A huge Supreme Court case called Jacob Matthew made it clear. The negligence has to be gross. We're talking about a very high level of carelessness, a reckless disregard for safety that's way more than just a simple mistake.
This table really lays out the tough tightrope walk the judges are on. On one side, you have reasons to quash the case. Maybe the evidence is so weak that a conviction is a total long shot, like in the Haspriya Basan case. Or maybe it really just seems like a tragic, pure accident. And of course, a huge factor is whether the settlement actually helps the victim's family in a meaningful way. But on the other side of the scale, you have clear, gross negligence, like in the Bhajanlal Sharma case, which involved a really dangerous construction site. The court also has to think about the bigger picture. What message does this send to everyone else?
So why would a court go down this road and use this extraordinary power? Well, it often just boils down to a very pragmatic decision about what justice really looks like in these awful, specific situations.
You can almost imagine the judge's mental checklist. First up, what are the odds of a conviction here?
Is the evidence solid, or are we just going to drag this family through more pain for nothing? Second, how bad was the negligence? Was it a momentary lapse or a complete and reckless failure? And finally, the big one, what will actually serve the ends of justice here? Sometimes the most just thing is making sure the family gets the support they desperately need right now.
Take the Babu Khan case for a real-world example. A worker tragically died in an accident. The court looked at the facts and figured a conviction for gross negligence was pretty unlikely. So the contractor and the worker's family agreed on a settlement of 8 lakh rupees. In the end, the court decided that the most just path was to quash the case and ensure the family got that compensation.
At the end of the day, this is the delicate balance the courts are trying to find. It's not about letting someone off the hook. It's about recognizing that in some of these cases, the bigger goals of justice, and that includes providing real help to victims, might be better served by a practical settlement instead of a long, painful, and maybe even failed prosecution.
In fact, a Delhi High Court case, Ajay Agarwal, basically laid out the ground rules for all of this. The court made it clear, this special power is totally different from compounding a crime. It's all about securing justice. A huge factor is whether a conviction seems unlikely. And this power has to be used with extreme care, never for horrible crimes like murder. And for 304A cases, it always comes back to that crucial test. Was it gross negligence?
And that brings us to the single most important takeaway here. An accused person can't just pay some money and demand that their case be thrown out. This is not a right. It's an extraordinary, discretionary power that the High Court uses very, very carefully, and only when it truly believes that ending the case is the best path to justice for everyone involved.
So we're left with a really profound question. In these terrible cases where a life is lost by accident, what should the main goal of our justice system be? Is it to punish negligence no matter what, or is it to find the most practical, helpful, and restorative outcome for the people who have been left behind to pick up the pieces? There are no easy answers, and it's a question our courts wrestle with every single day.